So I'm going to record this and hopefully we're going to share this on YouTube and on different platforms. So metabolic health and relationships, what are linked and what is important to know how relationships affect our health. So today we're going to cover three main chapters: is relationship, how relationship affecting our metabolic health, and how sleep and circadian rhythm affecting our relationships and metabolic health. And of course, the key message of today's session is about health is rational, not just emotional. Human connection is not a luxury, it's biology. We need relationships as we need the air. We are social animals, and without social relationships, our longevity shrinking. So that's why it's very important to understand ourselves and understand our loved ones, our partner, our family, our friends, and understand how to communicate. And if you probably didn't know about it, there have several rules we can follow, supported by science and a lot of evidence. So what makes a good life? Harvard study of adult development, which started back in 1938, they track physical and emotional health across decades, and clear finding that relationships is wealth or fame is the most important what we have in our life. It's more important than wealth and is more important than fame. And the clearest message we get from this, the longest study in humanity, over 75 years, confirm that good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. So if you want to live longer, if you want to have less illnesses, if you want to have a good metabolic health, we have to learn how to keep happy relationships and good relationships around us. Without that, that's not going to happen. Longevity is social. Strong relationships predicts lower all causes of mortality, less cognitive decline, and lower disease risk of heart and diabetes. So if you want to prevent them, number one remedy is to learn and understand yourself and your loved one. Social isolation, one of the biggest biological risks. Do you know that being lonely and isolated comparable by smoking of 15 cigarettes per day? So we know how smoking badly affects our health, but how social isolation or being lonely or not being surrounded by loved ones and good relationships killing us, we probably don't know. Mainly nowadays with all the social media, online availability, and absolutely distancing and avoidance and missing present around us. So social isolation increase inflammation biomarkers like CRP and interleukins and reducing our immune function. The biology of connection is following. Positive relationships and positive connections reduce cortisol level and increase oxytocin with bonding hormone. Support during stress, improve heart rate, sleep quality, and resilience to trauma or even stress. You probably heard about the Big Five personality traits. It's well known as OCEAN. It's all about openness that will cover curiosity, creativity, consciousness, reliability, extroversion, how social you are, agreeableness, empathy and harmony, and neuroticism. I highly recommend you to do your test to find out your Big Five personality traits and see what personality you have. And more important, I highly recommend to test your loved ones and learn more about your loved ones, because there is a lot of studies showing that our personality a key factor to happiness and our health. So what we have to do, we all have to increase extroversion and keep life in order. So if you rank lower in that, you have to work to improve it. Another personality test, what I want to mention especially because I think is better, it's more in-depth, and I would say it's more mature. Ocean personality test is more widely accessible and well-known and more researched. But Hexaco, or extra honesty and humility added into this, like a sixth personality trait, is very important. How athletical, how powerful, and what type of honesty you have, how honest you are as a person, how honestly you talk, how honestly you live by your own moral rules. And they have slightly different approach. So as available free of charge, is around 100 questions. So you can go online and find it under Hexaco research. If you Google that, you will see it, and then test yourself and compare to Ocean. So I would say Ocean is more for immature personality, for younger people, for younger adults, but is great starting point. But if you're more mature, I would say age 30 or 40 or even older, I highly recommend to make another test that probably will be more precise to your personality and will answer a lot of questions about yourself, where you can talk about it. It's a great opportunity to get closer to your friends, get closer to your family members, and more important, get closer to your romantic partner, because that person is the biggest predictor of your happiness and your health. Yeah. So in this test, the slightly different extroversion, for example, they test more team orientation, the outgoingness, enthusiasm, and how social you are. In terms of emotional approach, is not neuroticism, for example, comparison to Ocean, but we're going to talk, they testing more about stress tolerance, how how tolerant are you to stress, what's your level of independence, how mature you are to resolve and sort out your own problem, and resilience, how resilient you are to challenges in your life, and empathy. So what level of your empathy. So you can please go online, search for it, and if you want, I'm probably going to record extra video or making special lesson about personality traits, because that's important, is a very important step for self-awareness. What shape personalities? So, and personality shapes relationships. And high, for example, neuroticism mean that you'll be more prone to conflict, and as a result, you'll be more emotional reactive. So if you know that you high neuroticism by Ocean test, expect a lot of stress. So you have to work on reduction of your neuroticism and the stress coming just from you, because you're so responding to any little disruption, to the wind, to the weather, to, I don't know, to so many different, I would say, irritants around you. High in concession. I just can't pronounce that. It's hard for me. High in consciousness is a stable, independent partner. So it's meaning you're very stable. You know how to control. You know how to create these smart goals. You go into your goals. You everything in your life in quite an order. And if you high in this, in this quite high after your test, that probably would be quite prone and quite resistant to stress. And extroversion, that's mean you quite open to create new friendship. You're quite open to bonding, and that will support your social life and career. Personality doesn't mean compatibility. So if, for example, you have one personality trait, doesn't mean that your partner or your friend has to be the same as you are. No, not at all. Actually, opposite can attract, but shared values matter more. So that's mean personality is very important to choose, to not understand our loved ones, family, or your colleague at work, but it doesn't mean that will give you good relationships. So you have to be based more on the values, your friends and your family and your life partner, rather than just personality, where somebody will be with more empathy, something else. That should be accepted and committed to that. And if somebody want to change, you can support changes. That anyway will be quite long. Actually, there's a lot of studies being done that personality gets already formed by age of 3. So if you have a children, probably you notice that they already quite know what they want by age of 3. Even they don't talk, they show their own personality. And there is also a link that personality might be linked to microbiomes. So it's exploratory first 3 years, how child explore nature, toys, how much he put in his mouth. As we know, children always get ill before the age of 3. And that will go to the end of their life. Of course, they will shape by environment, but the character will be already shaped, and the main health pattern will be shaped as early age of 3. But back to personality and relationships, if two persons, for example, agreeable people, they're probably going to live in good harmony. So it will be no too much stress, and they'll try to agree and try to compromise. If two people very consciousness, they're going to share the same routine. Probably the house will be in perfect order, the garden, the work, everything will be planned, will be super organized, and that will make them special. And it will be very hard after that to choose or create a life with somebody different, because if people have different marriages or different relationships, that will trigger them. So probably that part, but it might affect your habits. Core values and surface preferences. Values in relationships probably is number one prediction of your relationships. They will last or they will not. You'll be stressed or not. So your preferences like hobby, habits, your taste, religion, or a level of the care, support. And if your values comply and they're the same, that means you have a good chance to have a long-lasting, happy relationships, good support, and that relationships will bring you a lot of help and happiness. Freedom, honesty, family growth. So are you both want to grow, you challenging each other, you support each other? And if such values mismatch, you will be in constant friction. You will constantly argue, you will constantly trying to change each other, and it will be literally impossible. You can't change the core values, because values is like a religion. It's like the most important and the most is like our basic, our skeleton. So you can't remove, if you remove a skeleton, will fall apart. You won't be able to move. So don't try to change your partner values. Try to know your partner values as early as you can, what they believe. Mainly, the worst is worse. One thing when you're in the early stage of dating or relationships or friendship, see what this person does. One thing we'll be talking about because of social norms or fashion, but different things what this person does. If it's true religion, might be hiding their religious from you or hiding some hobbies, very important. So try to find out. And if you know values, because we might share a few values, but other values will be not that important. So it's very important to share at least first to the core and most important values. How to see them? Just see what the person does. Because usually we should live by the values. And if we live against our values, we'll be unhappy and we'll have ill health. We're going to ill it all the time. We will catch every single flu. They will be constantly unhappy. We constantly couldn't sleep. So we have always metabolic illnesses non-stop. So make sure you did this test. I will going to talk in stress management more about the values, because they're so important for metabolic health and general well-being. So if I have an identity mismatch, that causes social stress. That means misalignment in our values and such mismatches in our friendship, in our environment, causing chronic cortisol elevation. So in cortisol, as a result, we asking for more sugar, they consume more sugar, and they should get rest and not crash, and they have this metabolic syndrome, they're getting fatter, and all these metabolic illnesses and all these metabolic syndromes eventually will kick you in. If you feel like you're walking in eggshells, so if you do your job against your values, you will last for long. So don't be surprised if you do your hate job, you hate your job, literally. You can't, you're waking up, I understand, I hate what I'm doing. Think about your health, because if you're thinking you paid a lot of money and then in 10-15 years you have a lot of money in bank account, you might not survive. I'm not joking. Is that important? That's important. Your colleagues at work, it's that important. Adoration and understanding that walking in eggshells and hating something, doing it every day, just killing you inside out. You speed up your aging, you're affecting your cardiovascular, you're destroying your relationships. And don't think that on the time when your pension will arrive, you will live for long. A lot of people just not making it. They have cancers, they have heart attacks, they have so many stories linked to this possessiveness or pressure doing the job what they really hate, or being with someone who they hate because of their money, because of the house, because of financial reasons, against their values, because of social norms. For example, divorce is not complied with because of religion, or family is against, or staying in relationships just because of the children. But if people hate and absolutely can't resist being together or doing their job, your body just going in decline much more than you think. That's a good thing to test your stress management is where continuous glucose monitoring, because you will see how you respond to sugar, because sugar is your fuel. It's like the car, and we already see you have a crashes up and down. Yeah, because when you start the engine and the sugar is your engine, it will be the engine doesn't work. You can't go ahead because you're so unhappy. You're under the stress. Your organism is under huge stress. You don't see it. Probably on the picture, you have a perfect life, you have a good car, you have a good friends, you have a luxury items or luxury holidays or whatever that could be or might be convenient for you, but your organism actually dying inside, and you can try to fix it. Another very important testing could be attachment theory. So it's quite old theory that is more about a theorism is not proved. So it might be the true, might be not. So it's a theory. So it's not 100% that's it for everyone work. And maybe you heard about attachment theory, self-awareness in terms of secure attachment style, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. Okay, so here, of course, that get this attachment style again getting tested by age of 3. So when personality, as we know, already formed, microbiomes already formed, organism in general already formed to mature. So remember, or ask your friends, your family, whatever, who knows you by age of 3, and they will describe your key personality that you still have. So they formed earlier. And attachment theory was linked to your caregivers when you was little, and actually assess by the time how you respond to your mother. So when your mother or caregiver was with you and then leaving, and anxious type, for example, start to scream, start to cry. And more importantly, when the caregiver coming back, child was angry. So still anxious. They can't really forgive for that, why you left me alone. I was struggling. So, and that type of children develop an anxious. So they crave for closeness. They have a fears, they have a control. They constantly worries we're going to leave or wouldn't come back. And even when you come back, they're still under the stress. They punish you. Yeah, they might create you some sort of arguments at all time. Remember when you left them, or they remember you everything what been done, and that already formed again when you've been little child. And probably the theory is that again, it might be microbiomes, it might be environment, it might be your nutrition, is a way how the brain get informed. Brain, of course, continue to develop. By that time, the fundamental parts already get formed. Avoidant, another side, absolutely don't care. If a caregiver gone, avoidant personality type, just a child will be sitting, actually, mom gone, and just okay, go, I don't care. So if you notice your child, a little child at 2 or 3 behind that way, it's probably an alarming sign, and you need to investigate and probably give your child a bit more support and getting closer to it. And so avoidant child will just, okay, bye mom, I'm not interested, and actually blanket. And the same blanket will be the mother back. The avoidant wouldn't show happiness. Avoidant say, okay, you're here or you're not here. Actually, I don't care. I'm busy. I have my toys. I have my friends. I have my books. And this emotional attachment actually blunt. You don't see it. And of course, when you're growing up in relationships, we see a lot of avoidance. So one, mainly if anxious type, really craving for this, getting crazy would connect, and avoidant actually, yeah, it seems like he wants, but you're here, you're not here, I wouldn't care. I text you, I called you, I wouldn't care. So that quite actually the couples of avoidant and anxious personality types, the more often complies, because one is constantly running away and then anxious constantly trying to call on you. Do you love me? For example, if somebody's saying, now, if you love me after a few minutes, or constantly controlling you, where are you, putting your trackers on your phone, or thinking that you're going to leave or you're going to cheat or something will be happening behind the back. They're constantly on thrive. And avoidant actually wouldn't care at all. So actually, you're gone, you're gone. Absolutely, probably gonna look something around, but no. Disorganized is both, so it's absolutely all the avoidant or the stress. But more important, and of course, the most stable relationships is secure. So they're comfortable with closeness and autonomy. So they create the boundaries. They understand if they're not over anxious or they're anxious by the reason, and they're not avoidant or they're stepping back and then creating their own boundaries. So what we all should do is we need to try to get in close as possible to secure attachment style during the stress and trying to avoid other. So secure base, they see what's happening, what's going on, they're safe. Insecure, inconsistent, neglectful, and smothering. And they affect emotional regulation and, of course, creating a lot of stress. So if your partner avoidant or your partner is anxious type or disorganized type, don't expect stress-free life or expect some sort of metabolic health issues. Attachment and health outcomes, of course, talking here by themselves. Secure attachment, they have a better immunity. In the insecure attachment, they have a better sleep, they have a better glucose control. Insecure, the chronic stress, chronic cortisol going up, anxiety, and of course, poor health choices. So smoking is, of course, maybe alcohol, is bad choices, and a lot of bad things will go away. So how you can test it? There is different tests. You can search them. Is the adult attachment inventory, relationship structure questionnaire, and anxiety and avoidance spectrum. So you can test if you have ideas that your partner might be avoidant or super anxious. You can address this. And a good thing that after self-assessment, you can make reasonable changes to change it, because it's not healthy. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your partner, for your friends, for your family. And so when you're aware, you can make right choices. You can start your healing. You can record your patterns. You can start notice things that actually I might be anxious or I might be avoidant, and you can grow. You can start from daily, first of all, maybe journaling to see what's your patterns, what do you do? See what's your actions, because actions is the main, they say is everything, what you do. Of course, there's some tools in the therapy. So if you can't cope by yourself, if you can't find it out, but you notice your partner have them, of course, that emotional focus therapy or acceptance ACT, acceptance commitment therapy might be helpful, or internal family systems. Also, you can read different books. I can recommend Attached by Amir Levin and Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson. You can do journaling to see what's the trigger points if you act as anxious or you act as avoidant type. And of course, you have to practice your boundaries if you are secure type. Yeah. So please note that for secure type, you probably can navigate both. And the main roller coaster start in that avoidant and avoidant great. They wouldn't match. Yeah. So that's the relationships wouldn't happen. Anxious and anxious probably you're going to kill each other. So home abuse and then this domestic abuse quite often happening with both people are anxious, and quite often happens sadly with crime scene and or death or that sort of thing. So family abuse and home abuse. And because yeah, avoidant will avoid it, so avoidant will go away from the anxious, the bad to anxious. Yeah. But we don't want that. We don't want death. We don't want murders. We don't want these weaknesses, this abuse, and that's treatable. That they can make reasonable steps. So another very important part in relationships is 5-to-1 ratio. So in romantic relationships, we need to follow 5-to-1, and in individual flourishing or friendship is 3-to-1. So it's 5 positive, to one negative. So if you say your partner or your friend that actually you done something bad or they're not good enough, please make sure you cover the 5 positive things. For a romantic partner, it's crucial and the most important thing, because you wouldn't be able keep your relationship alive. It's not healthy if you're constantly going to mark only negative things. We all do mistakes without exclusions. We all do them, and we need to learn how to forgive them. And we need to learn how to accept and commit for changes. And if you're not going to keep this ratio, it's scientifically proven. So many marriages have been tested. And if the ratio is not kept, we can say and predict divorce by 98%. If you see your patterns and you make a journaling, if something, oh, you haven't done, you didn't hoover, you didn't cut the grass in the garden, or you done X, Y, Z and constantly negative, and after that you didn't talk and you didn't cover the positive emotions, that's not going to work. No relationships, not at your work. So if your employee done something bad and your employer or the boss, make sure you notice good things. Quite often is linked to the people don't notice good things. They notice only bad. And they want the bad be removed and they don't see positive. What positive relationship bringing, what good things people do. So make sure you pronounce it. Just not saying, yeah, I see you, you've been so good. I see you made a dinner. I see you painted, or you bought me a present, or you done my laundry, and I see how much you done for me. And if you're not gonna do that, it's not gonna work. So micro moments for connection is eye contact, touch, and share humor is very important. This build emotional bank account. So emotional bank account is the bank, then the building this as a block, one by one, positive emotion. There's positive things. This is 1 out of 5, 5 things positive. And of course, it boosts oxytocin with the bonding and bonding hormone. So about the oxytocin. Oxytocin is a bonding molecule, and releasing is probably the biggest amount it released in labor. Then women giving birth, natural birth to the baby, and it's 200 times more release of oxytocin. So mother, if a baby just getting born, get already connected because of the source of oxytocin. The second, the most important, the biggest amount is the orgasm, and actually women produce 2 to 3 times more oxytocin during sexual satisfaction in comparison to men. So that's why intimacy and sexual intercourse for women much more dangerous, because you get attached, emotionally attached to the men. Men need much more, 2, 3 times longer, and is slightly different way how he get attached. But of course, after that goes hugs, skin contact, and even eye glaze, the way how you look in your partner, that will increase oxytocin. Oxytocin is very important because it's bonding. It's this important part of connection. So number is, it's 15 minutes rule. So there's a lot of rules today. Just 15 minutes a day, then distract connection. So ideally, we need to laugh, touch, or listen to your partner or your friend or part of your family for 15 minutes each day. So because it's increased oxytocin level in your bloodstream and lowers blood pressure. So just make sure you spend these 15 minutes without disruption, without your phone, without anything. Just talk, just laugh, just listen, your partner, your children. So in case if you're going through the disagreements and stressful time or arguments, there is very nice recommendation of 7 to 2 hours rule. So if you have a conflict and you can't resolve it and you need a space, depends on the strategy or depends on the stress level with you experience, please allow 72 hours before you re-engage. Why? Because 72 hours is the time in dopamine and the surge or all these emotional hormones getting settled. So yes, a window of 72 hours, approximately. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes even a little bit more, but 72 hours is average. Promotes this boundary, actually promotes self-regulation that allow yourself to be with yourself. If you spend, for example, too intense time, like non-stop together, or you run the severe project, or you're organizing some event and going through a very stressful time, please allow your partner to be alone. So let them go for 72 hours. Please don't text them, don't chase them, don't try to call them, leave them alone, and see what happens after 72 hours. Allow your emotions to revive after 72 hours. And if it wouldn't matter after 72 hours, that it never did. So the argument or event was happening, not important. If you want to feel the need to react after 72 hours, it means you don't need to do that. So you'll think, but if they know that you're hurting, or the person know that you're in pain, you need support, and not even checked, not even tried to find out what's going on with you. So there's a good and quite alarming sign. You probably need to move on. Autonomy build trust. Needing space doesn't mean that you're rejecting anyone. Autonomy, it's mean your nervous system safety, and you trust. I don't need to control. You feel safe. So you have to trust. Chemistry of falling in love. Of course, we're probably all from different age groups. Whatever age we probably go, the love is always in the same, because it's creating, I would say, the strongest dopamine spikes and reward surges. So love constantly, and relationships, that is probably one of the strongest predictors, dopamine spikes. And after that, serotonin drips, and that is a danger. So the first oxytocin get released, and they might cause the bonding, but too early bonding. What is different between new love with sustainable love? So new love, it's mean we just meet someone, they're excited. I would say is more chemistry, is up to maybe from around 3 months, 6 weeks, 3 months up to half a year, and all the hormones, dopamines, and you can live, you can sleep. Actually, you get ill, you're mentally unstable, you are under severe neurotransmitters effect, and new novelty is it's mean it's unpredictable, so you don't know what to expect. It's so excited, you think what's going to happen, you imagine that, you're creating your own images, your own scenarios. But stable means calm and predictable, and oxytocin already kicks. This means you already know your partner, you already know what's going to happen, you know what to expect. And peak dopamine phase lasts around 6 to 12 months. Well, love feels like addiction. So not every single love is healthy love. And instead, we can say we might have nicotine or alcohol addiction. We might have even love addiction. Love addiction is toxic, like any other substance, like any other addictions, is not helping or supporting or prolonging our life. It's just making us ill. Yeah, and addiction need to be treated. So that's it's a cravings, it's a withdrawal tolerance. There happen neurobiological overlap with drug addictions, and you probably need to go through the same pattern as quitting smoking or stop drinking alcohol. There's a constant dopamine loop, reinforcement by inconstant, consistent affection, cortical dynamics. So there is different. It might be narcissistic love addicts, relationships addicts, codependent love addicts, romance addicts. They want this writing, texting, and we have got a pandemic of love addictions, love bombing, and all those online new illnesses we never experienced before internet kicked in. So transitioning from to mature bonding is a very important process and not easy process. A lot of people think that this initial phase leaving them, that is it, is no love anymore, but they don't understand this maturity. If you mature, if you're an immature person, don't expect something good will happen. The true love mainly is security. It's not a thrill. You feel secure, you feel safe, you feel calm. You don't, it's no roller coasters of emotions at all the time, because emotional safety supports metabolic regulation. You wouldn't be that stressed. You wouldn't be that constantly tried by negative emotions. And stability in relationships also stimulate and activate parasympathetic system, nerve system. So about the bonding time, how long does it take? As I said before, from 0 to 6 months, this is high dopamine levels. How long will last for you? 6 weeks, 3 months, or 6 months, but average approximately from 0 to 6 months. And make sure you not get addicted, because addictions here, that's strong, very strong dopamine surges. You might get addicted, and that might go into absolute toxic and unhealthy patterns. So here is very important taking decisions. Is that something growing, or is it they have a similar values? I know their personality. I can trust. We're building up something meaningful. If not, probably is the time to end it. To not enter addiction, because addiction is very much harder to get out of, and it's much harder to rid of. Within 6 to 12 normal good relationships, the clear those intimacy start to clean. They have a lot of serotonin and oxytocin release, and more positive sign. So if there's no serotonin, oxytocin, is no intimacy, there's no closeness develop within half a year, probably not going to happen. So don't live under illusion. So that addiction is your own imagination. And over 12 months, they can talk about true compatibility, and they can talk about already more mature love. Okay, now I want to cover a topic, how gender respond to the stress, how your partner. I'm more talking about more classic male and female patterns. However, we're talking about the gay couples, male, so I would say more softer gender. One of them usually will have more female thinking and more female behavior, more female brain patterns comparison to the man. So probably will be very similar responses to women in terms of brain function. During stress, men usually activate fight or flight response. So they will be more under adrenaline and cortisol, and they need the space. Adrenaline, very powerful substance, very strong, very strong neurotransmitter, and affecting differently in comparison to oxytocin release, where women usually get released during stress. So men need a space, they need a clarity, yes or no. There's non-verbal respect, and they need silence sometimes, and they don't need somebody to fix them. Yeah, so adrenaline and cortisol is very different approach. Usually women affect the stress. Women on our side have a different approach, is attend and befriend, is oxytocin release. So she needs to release this oxytocin. So she needs a hug, she needs a kiss, she needs a presence, she needs glaze of the eye. So actually she needs a presence of someone by her side. And by that empathy, verbal reassurance, her stress gets reduced. She needs holding hands. She needs somebody to listen to her. She needs to talk to someone, comparison to the man. And if both stressed, so woman searching for this connection, for somebody to listen to her, and the men need to be left alone. So don't touch me, don't talk to me, leave me alone. That's when the crashes. Yeah. So people get into arguments. They don't understand each other. They don't understand each other biology. They don't understand basic responses that the brain designed the man how to resolve the stress or how to sort the stressful moment. Yeah, they're historically going to the hunting. They need to be very silent. They need to be very resilient. They need to be really like a stone. And woman opposite, when she's stressed, she needs to tell everyone about the stress. She needs attention, because women historically always been pregnant and vulnerable. She got a lot of children, little babies to look after. She can't run far away. So she will scream, she will talk a lot, she will ask everybody, come here, come here, come here. There is a snake, or there is alligator, or there is a danger here, here, here. Ha. She will scream, and she will bring and ask for this attention. So the more people as possible, men, of course, men, because men is much stronger and she can protect women. So that is the main difference, so generated for years and millions of years. Yeah, so we can't just change in the 50, 60 years. With modern life changes, all genetics, that genetics. It's not even epigenetics, that genetics. Implications, people don't understand each other. We're not already talking about the values. We're not talking about personality traits or metabolic health. We're talking about the just normal classic stress response, healthy stress response differences. Then clashes will go ahead and the problems will kick. So how relationships affect metabolic health? Of course, relationships affected by through the hormones like cortisol, oxytocin, and dopamine reward. Through the habits, so co-regulation, better sleep, and better eating patterns, and through safety. Yeah, so we need to more know that we are safe, that men usually require loyalty from the woman's side, and less stress means better glucose control. So glucose monitoring is very important. Relationship quality and chronic disease, secure relationship predict low hypertension, so you'll have more controlled blood pressure. You reduce your diabetes risk, and you improve your sleeping quality. And insecure relationships causing us chronic vigilance and disease and metabolic problems after that. So from insight to practice, okay, probably we know theory, but it's very hard to keep it alive, to keep it on road, to make it good. So reflect on your patterns. You reflect on your attachment patterns, your current support system, who will be by your side in stress time, emotional safety in your relationships. Do you have that? So record it, make a journaling, think about it, make a test, and ask for the help if you're needed. So now is the topic, it's the time to talk about sleep, the silent pillar of metabolic health, because when we sleep, we usually very quiet. We're not talking. If your diet is a fuel, then sleep is the repair. We all need a maintenance, and sleep is very important part of that. Why sleep follows after relationships? Well, because oxytocin, first of all, from bonding promotes sleep. So if you want to sleep better or you have insomnia, make sure you have a connection with your loved ones. Have a little cuddle, you look in the eyes, or you have a little chat for 15 minutes, as I say, is essential. Emotional safety allows for sympathetic activation, so you get to feeling more relaxed. And couples in happy relationships, they have fewer sleep disturbance and a greater deep sleep. And the deep sleep is mean better mental health. So sleep architecture, you probably, if somebody was interested in sleeping patterns, uh, they have REM and non-REM cycles, and they run around 90 minutes, and the brain and body perform different tasks in different stages. With age, we usually significantly reduce deep sleep, and deep sleep is super important. Yeah, so and reduction in deep sleep happening after age of 30. So now all aging in as well, starting after 30 in general. So REM declines and REM phase, this is our dream phase when you see a lot of beautiful, colorful dreams. REM declines of age as well. We have less emotional regulation. So we just live in so much emotion. But the older they get, the more emotional they live. And just in some occasions, they is getting enough. They can't already take more. And older adults, they have a lighter and more fragmented sleep comparison to younger individuals. So why deep sleeps decline? Yeah, because they have a neuronal losses in prefrontal cortex and a part of the brain is affecting the circadian clock weakens as well, and nighttime cortisol and buffering frequency also get increased, and the part of the brain affects differently. Metabolic impact of aging sleep. Less slow wave sleep or deep sleep, we have less growth hormone and more insulin resistance. And disturbed circadian rhythm, if you travel, for example, a lot, but for your work or different reasons, they can disturb glucose. You might be more glucose intolerant, so you can test it wearing glucose monitor, continuous one. And more fatigue, so you might feel more tired, and as a result is a poor decision making around the food or in general problem solving. So some scientists try to develop a QQRT model for 4 pillars to restore the sleep, and the main factors we need to look at for good sleep. So the quantity sleeps around 7 to 9 hours. The quality is mean interpreted full cycle, regularity, consistent bedtime and waking up time, and timing aligning with circadian rhythm. So inconsistent sleep and circadian jet lag, creating that. That means when you have irregular sleep times, so we go to sleep one day 10, another day 2 or 3 a.m., it's disturbing a lot circadian rhythm. As a result, we have a hormonal chaos. The cortisol surge in the wrong times, we get an insulin resistance, our the ghrelin goes up, our leptin and the hunger kicking us. So when you get older, we have a sleep duration effect. When they get older, sleep duration metabolism, if you sleep less than 6 hours a day, or you sleep more than 8-9 hours per day, you have insomnia symptoms. So let me see what's going on in here. Okay. Then you have a risk of obesity, your weight circumstances go up, your blood pressure goes up, your high density cholesterol goes down, triglycerides goes up, and fasting blood glucose as well. And more important, your inflammation as well goes up. Very important case study for nurses with rotating shifts. That they done the quite good study to analyze nurses during their sleep in rotating, how it's affecting their health, and they find out that the chronic circadian disruption affecting the increase in metabolic syndrome and increased cardiovascular diseases. So I want to mention chronotypes because there is different classification. You can do tests as well. You can find them online. Now everything is online. It's free to find out what chronotype. So there is different classification of them, but the more important here is, for example, well known probably chronotype will be owl or lark. There are others, one like a bear, for example, they're 55%. They're naturally social and tend to wake up around sunrise and sleep around sunset. And the others, for example, lion chronotype, they wake up early, they're very diligent and are most productive in the morning. A wolf chronotypes, they're creative thinkers, they're most productive in afternoon. And dolphins, they're sensitive sleepers with fragmented sleep patterns and rarely keep a regular sleep schedule. And they'll be absolutely fine. So they wouldn't have any metabolic effect when my they wake up at 6 a.m. The most difference here is where you're the most productive. Yeah. So you have to probably do your journaling and see when you have more energy to exercise, to go to the gym, then you get more sleepy, then your problem solving is a very good comparison to other times during the day. If you're going to live against your chronotype, you cause a lot of stress. So that's why a lot of schools actually in Europe and they start to shift their school starting time. They start at 8 o'clock, for example, and then at 9. So it's shifted. For children who need extra time to sleep, they allow them and they give them this opportunity to sleep a little bit longer. So if you are forced to early schedule or you need to wake up early, then you might have chronic sleep deprivation as a result of stress and affecting your metabolism. If you're lark, working late, you might develop insomnia and burnout. So make sure you align your work life with natural rhythm when possible. How to find a chronotype? There is a different tools like morningness and evenness questionnaire or MEQ. You can observe your peak focus time, best workout window, natural wake time, and on 3 days, on the weekends, eat and exercise and sleeping with your own right and when you feel the best for you. And you can check insulin sensitivity when you're wearing the patches and like that as well. You will see then you consume and you use your fuel the more efficient and the best way. So it's different options for you. So what happened to your brain during your sleep is detoxing waste. It does lymphatic system. It consolidates your memory and it improves emotional intensity. So what is lymphatic system? It's not like lymphatic system. We know about lymph. Lymphatic system is taking away the toxin, working very hard. And lymphatic system does very similar job, but only in the brain. So it works to detoxify the brain and collecting toxin where you collect it during the day, proteins and plaques, and flush them out through your veins. So it's like a kidney, it's like a liver. It does a lot of stuff. So it's very important. Do not disturb this process. It's clears beta amyloid and tau proteins, and it's protective against Alzheimer's or dementia. So what happens and the mood, how sleep and REM sleep or dreaming affecting on us. So emotional processing and memory linking. So with REM psychoanalysis, you can predict and identify your emotions. There is a lot of colors. For example, we can understand what do you feel depends on the color, and has creativity, empathy, and they control your irritability. And so you can, if you see the dreams, it's a good sign. So the sleep is mean you do your hormonal reset because it reduce your cortisol, reduce the visceral fat, is increase your leptin, that means satiety level, to protect you from overeating. It reduces your ghrelin, so you reduce the cravings for sweets or to food, and it stimulates your growth hormone for tissue repair. So there is some, of course, sleeping strategies for hormonal health, maintain a regular sleep schedule, create restful environment, limit exposure to screens before bed, establish pre-sleep routine, exercise regular, watch your diet, and managing your stress. And of course, sugar. Make sure you have stable sugar during the night because it's fuel needed day and night. And if you lack of fuel at night, and you're not responding, if you like overnight fasting, you might have disturbed sleep. Sleep deprivation and insulin resistance. There's plenty of studies confirming that if you're not sleeping well, after that, you're not consuming your fuel, your glucose in the right way. So it's very, very important you to check your sleep, make sure it's good, because one night of 4 hours sleep affecting 20-30% drop in insulin sensitivity. So you're getting more blank response to insulin, and it triggers metabolic dysfunction similar to pre-diabetes. So affecting immunodeficiency, mental health disorders, diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular diseases, and hormone imbalances, and even worsen your pain. So there are a lot of different common sleeping disorders, but the most well-known will be sleep apnea, most metabolically damaging, and insomnia, men and women during perimenopausal, menopausal, restless leg syndrome, and delayed sleep phase disorder where you can't fall asleep. So might be snoring, narcolepsy, sleep talking, and exploding head syndrome, etc. Why apnea is so dangerous? Because the oxygen drops and creating sympathetic activation, your blood pressure goes up, the glucose, affecting the glucose and cortisol levels. There's a risk of strokes, heart attacks, and insulin resistance, hypertension, memory loss, depression, and all others side effects. So sleep hygiene here is a basic. So recommendation will be dark and cool room, no screens for 1 hour before you go to bed, no caffeine after 1 or 2 p.m., and regular wind down routine. So allow yourself enough time before you go to bed. Make your bedroom peaceful and tidy environment, because a lot of a mess actually stress you out. Get regular schedule. Avoid heavy meals, alcohol, caffeine before you go to sleep. Avoid exercising at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. Avoid TV in beds or other media features like mobile phones, iPads, and avoid bright light for 2 hours before you go to bed. Light and melatonin. So somebody saying blue light, but I would say every bright light will affect melatonin, every single light. So make sure you are in a darker environment with less light as possible. It doesn't matter, is bright yellow light or bright blue light. Use a warm red light after 8 p.m., but again, dimmering, so dimmer than less bright, less bright as possible. And make sure you have a good light in the morning. Yes, so that will help you to go asleep later at night. Ideal bedroom environment, so temperature, we don't want to sleep when it's very hot. Ideally, it's 18 degrees. It's very hard in summertime or people who live in very hot countries. Blackout curtains or eye masks to make sure you sleep in darkness. Bamboo sheets or breathable bedding, they're cooling down your bed. No visible technology, so no tellies, no computers, no charging phones, etc. Supplements. So, okay, in terms of melatonin in the UK, we don't recommend melatonin. It's a prescription-only medicine. However, in the United States, a tiny little dose, like 0.3 milligrams, might be helpful, but not higher than that. Magnesium glucinate, great. Outside is really good. If somebody can't go to sleep, 2-3 hours before you go to bed, take up to 400 milligrams of magnesium glucinate. You can buy them in different shops, in Holland Barrett's or other shops online. Chamomile or chamomile tea or different mint tea. And of course, make sure your vitamin D is good level. Orthosomnia. What is that? You probably know that a lot of people wearing a lot of gadgets, a lot of rings and Oura rings, Whoop, or tracking all the time, but they sleep. They're tracking do they wake up, do they talk, what's going on, then they asleep, and they called orthosomnia. So it's actually a psychological disease, need actually treatment because it causes a lot of anxiety about not being perfect sleeper. So make sure you're not going that long. The knowledge is great, but too much stress about it not helping. Sleep relationships and addiction loop. Poor sleep, more irritability, and strained relationships, loneliness, worsen sleep, and both increase in cravings and addictions. Okay, that's it was for today. And that's it. It was very nice to see everyone. And next profile will be already on probably YouTube or different platforms, and I will keep you updated. Just follow me and for the news